Hey, we're looking forward to the show today. Kelly and I are going to be talking about, actually, that's not true. Kelly will be talking about deep bedding. I'll be asking all the questions. I think it's going to be fun though, because um, deep bedding is something that is recommended by farmers all across the United States, all over. But it's something that I feel like I kind of understand and then I don't understand. And then you were saying you do it for more than just chickens. So I think we're going to get a lot of clarification. And as we're headed into winter and thinking of things like how we're going to care for these critters all winter long, I think it's good to have that foundation. And bedding is expensive. So we're going to just kind of talk through all the things. But first, I want to talk about what's going on around your farm. Kelly, what's going on your farm?
I wish didn't have an eventful week, and I did. It was the worst week. It was the
Yeah.
worst week of my year. Almost, almost the worst. I'm nearing in on a year after my knee replacement, which still rules overall as like the worst experience of my life. But, um, like your worst nightmare, my cow Maggie, like was fine the night before, 4 gallons of milk, no problem. My son was milking in the morning. I was like, "Hey," and I'm around, and I'm like, "Buddy, you haven't even like started that front quarter." Like, and he's like, "Mom, I'm trying." Like, I'm trying. There's a problem. There was a problem. Maggie had gotten mastitis in one of her quarters, and it's so interesting because you hear all the time, like I have prepared myself and heard horror stories, and I have the things for the horror stories I've heard, and always like, that's not me. Like I can't remember the last time the goats got mastitis, anything like you get to a point and you're like, that doesn't happen anymore. Well, it happened, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna treat this, but I'm really connected into what's happening. And I noticed, I was like, ooh, Maggie is not right. Like there is a problem with her. Hold on just a second. Like you can just my son's you see his hand? He's trying to get
It's,
water and not
I love it.
okay.
Just the hand.
Oh,
That's okay.
his
We've got a
hand.
helicopter anyway, so that's funny.
Anyway, so Maggie, I was watching her, I pay attention. I watch her really close, and I notice she's standing on the side. And honestly, the part that I noticed the most as she's standing there, I notice there's a little like saliva kind of coming down off her
Mm.
face. And now that doesn't normally happen when a cow is drinking and eating, right? Because they're gooping up their face and they're licking and they're doing things. And I just stood there for a while. I was like, "Whoa, she hasn't eaten anything." And then took her temperature, and a cow's temp is like 101-ish, around there. And it was 105.5, and that's where my thermometer topped out at.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so she's not eating that like very huge front quarter. And I I have a couple of like my one lady that lives on the island, she and I have a milk cow, and I sent her a message. And then we actually pay to have our consultant on the mainland. And I we started like a three-way text message. And really Maggie was starting to go septic.
Hmm.
And so we don't have a vet on our island, where we are the vet. And then further, it's just really comes down to like you have to just make a choice real quick here. And
Oh my
so
gosh.
I got my friend Katja and coming into town, and like it's like, what meds do you have? What meds do I have? Like what do we have here? And you kind of work together. So you're like, I had the right size of needle that we needed to do the IV in the milk line, and she had a non-expired antibiotic that we needed, and then like we're getting all the things. So all the pieces are coming in, and she makes starts driving into town, and we just immediately put a line under Maggie in her milk line, and just gave her meds, and we did 2 rounds of that. But then she had gotten really dehydrated, so I took it was like a bottle that I think I had like kept after I had a kid or something. Like anyway, but I squirted like quart by quart, 3 gallons worth of
Wow.
fluids back into Maggie and got, because she didn't want to drink anything at all, even molasses water, anything. She needed that sugar water to get in there. So it was like 2 days of
Oh my
just
gosh.
touch and go. And finally, once I got the extra fluids all into her, she started to chew her cud a little bit. The tricky part now, we're coming in on, it'll be like, what is it, a week tomorrow, maybe the next day. But she's still like, I'm gonna have to dry off her 1/4. And
Mm.
it's still so inflamed. Like she's doing pretty good, but it's it's horrible. It's just horrible. So that has been a very consuming this week. Goes back to our podcast about the goats and the cow. This is the big downer because you lose one cow, you lose your only animal, to where you have one goat. I have 9 more goats.
Mm.
So different. So anyway, thankfully though, acting fast and honestly following the instructions of people that know better, I mean, we definitely saved her life. I think we would have lost her. So I'm
Mm.
amazed though, truly, like all the horror stories, like it actually can happen. Like it's like, that wouldn't happen to me. It happened to me. So,
So the night before she was perfectly fine.
yep, 4 gallons of milk. And because I had kept the milk and I went back and I tested everything perfectly fine. No problems at
My
all.
gosh. So what is it? So mastitis obviously is an infection,
Yeah.
but what creates the infection?
Well, and that's the tough part. So a host of different things, Maggie could have stepped on that quarter, when she was getting up, hit it,
Yeah.
push it. She could have laying out in the dirt or whatever, being dirty. She could have gotten something up in there. It really, and that, you always hear this, like even the best practices, even the cleanest spaces, like there's still an opportunity for there to be a problem. I'm not sure what was the catalyst that created the infection. Um, and then a lot of the time, like if somebody gets mastitis, well, you can just treat the quarter through the udder, so I could have done just an injection into that quarter. And originally that's what I thought I would have to do, and so it clearly was not that. And even
Mhm.
now here, so nearly a week later, it is still hard and packed and like it's
Wow. So note to people who are new cow keepers or not, but haven't had mastitis yet. It can happen to anybody, and you have to act fast. The moment you notice something is wrong, you have to act fast. So having antibiotics on hand is probably pretty key.
you know, and I grew up in a very holistic family, right?
Mm.
So I mean, we did not do modern medicine. I mean, I'm very honest. We were homeopathic medicine, we were herbs, like we did not do doctor. I was not immunized as a child. Like I get that side of things, right? My mom was also an RN though. And she said
Mhm.
there's a time and a place for medicine and a need for that. And God has given us those things. And so it's interesting kind of the back and forth you get because I've still gotten the back and forth like, oh, you could have treated this naturally. I think I would have had a dead cow at that
Yeah.
point. It escalated so quickly. So yes, like I have all the antibiotics. Either you have them or you have access to them. So between my friend Katya and myself, we had everything that we needed. And it was interesting when we were talking about what we were going to do. I was like, okay, do you want me to come out there and get it? And then I was realizing, oh, we're going to have to do an IV. And I was like, you're going to need to come into town. I need support. So the two of us, and it was very stressful, but we'd been trained when my vet was here, we had all the things that we needed, so we thought at first we were going to put it in the neck vein. We opted not, so we hadn't actually been like, she watched a YouTube video. I'm sure, no, she's really smart. Anyway, we just acted it and then followed the instruction of other
Yeah.
people. So Yeah.
That's really cool though. I'm glad she's doing better. So by drying off her quarter, then will that can you get milk back in there again over
Yeah,
time?
so
Or
the hope is that we're gonna dry off that quarter, but allow it to heal. So
Mhm.
there's somatic cell counts that you end up with, and that shows that you're like the health of your udder. So the somatic cell counts more than likely in that quarter will be off the charts. Now in like the grade A certified world, your somatic cell counts are a lot lower for cows. Like for a goat, it's 1.5 million, and I feel like for a cow, it's like 50,000. I don't remember what it is for, I need to go back and a lot lower, but and that's to have a legal level to be able to sell your milk in the grade A world. I don't believe that her somatic cells will ever this season go back down to a good level, which will
Yeah.
throw off your whole tank. So, from what I've been advised, we'll dry off that. It won't really, so then we'll give that quarter. Hopefully, next season it'll come back on and it'll be healed and it will be fine. But even if it doesn't, I mean, she's a high producing, fantastic cow. And normally the three others make up for what the one would have done. Kind of like when you have like a three-legged dog, like they make up for it. So
Yeah,
anyway,
that's right.
we'll
Wow.
we'll see. And the goal is, I'll have a second cow coming on in December, and then we'll work towards drying Maggie off. And anyway, all a learning experience. This is I've had her for 3 years, and I just feel like I'm such a newbie all the time.
I wonder when you're ever not.
I
I
don't
wonder
know
if
if
you
you
ever
ever
feel like
are. I don't know.
I kind of hear the same thing. That's kind of how it seems. I mean, you can probably have a lot more confidence because once now you've done this, if it
Right.
happens again, you're going to walk through it with a lot more confidence. I'm sure you did things that you think, man, I wish I would have done this or this different. Now you'll know for next time. But the other part about stuff like this is it's so intensive in a moment. And then if it doesn't happen again for 3 or 4 years, then it's not like it's every week. So you're staying practiced up on it. And so you have to go back and go, "Ugh, what was
Right.
that? What were the things that were important and stuff. So
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I'll
Well,
be
I'm
happy to
glad it
never
hasn't.
have it happen again. It'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't blame you. I'm glad it had your story has a happy ending though.
Yeah, I am too. I'm really thankful for it. And she's like now gets the royal treatment. I'm like, whatever you want, Maggie. I'll give you 18 choices of feed. Like, I'll go buy special alfalfa for you. Like, what do you want? What do you want? Anything you want. I'll spend for you.
And
So,
she's gonna nurse that
oh,
one
she
quarter.
already,
She's gonna
she's something.
gonna roll in the
And then
dirt just to keep it dirty.
so you hear the story, and like her eyes had gotten sunken in. I was like, oh my gosh, like this really happens. Anyway. Anyway, how are you doing? How are things out there going?
Things are good. We are having another warm day. This spring kind of was slow to come, and then it wasn't real warm. But man, once summer started, we've actually had a really nice summer. So yesterday was downright hot, and today's pretty warm. So that's fun. We're opening the farm to the public for you pick today and tomorrow. So we're hoping strategically by opening it for 2 days, that means we don't have quite the influx of people. And we're opening for red and black currants and Saskatoons. And those don't have the popularity behind them that the honeyberry or the cherry or the apple do. So I don't think we're going to get slammed, but it's going to be fun to see our people again. The U pick is just such an encouraging time. Because just we just have the neatest people come through. So it's fun. Um,
That's
we do big bulk orders of we do peaches and corn and stuff that we bring up from the lower 48. It's all organic. And so our first order came in last week. So and then the peaches will come in, they come in tomorrow and everybody comes and picks them up on Wednesday. So that's always fun too. And it's just neat. Um, this is just a neat time of year. There's just lots of people and lots of people doing neat things and learning how they're preserving food and
right.
so it's good.
How
Yeah.
neat. That's really fun.
And I shared this with you, but I want to share it with everyone because it's the cutest thing ever. If you ever get a baby cow and you're having a really rotten day, uh, take the heel or the rind or whatever of the bowl part of a watermelon out to your baby cow and see what happens. Oh my goodness, the slur like I didn't tell you this, but like there was like chunks and juice like flying because she was slurping and it was so cute. Oh, she was having the time of her life. So little Mabel, who's not very happy about weaning, she did find happiness in watermelon. So that was fun.
So fun. That's so great.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. So well, all right. Well, I want to talk with you about bedding. And honestly, this is as much a selfish podcast as anything because I just want to understand, and I feel like I haven't. And I saw a post on Facebook the other day, and someone was asking about it, and I thought, oh, good, I'm not the only one that's like, I think I understand, but I feel like I'm not quite getting it right. So, um, besides, like I said, bedding is such an expense when you have animals. And so if I can learn to do it better and more productive, and I mean, if I can learn to do it cheaper, that's great. But even if it can just be more productive for us, then that's great. So let's dive in. Tell us what even is the deep bedding method? How did you learn about it?
I it's one of those things I think I kind of always knew about because we did it growing up in Nebraska, but I guess it wasn't until I had my own farm that I put a name to it. I was like, oh, this is deep bedding, and really started to understand it for myself. So deep bedding is a way of generating heat through the bedding for your animals. So you have a mix of your carbon and your nitrogen mixed together. And once you start to do that, those microbes start going to work, generating heat, and that's what heats. And back in early days, people would actually heat their home with the deep bedding. They're like, so say your home's on top of your barn. Well, that was part of what helped heat your home throughout the winter. And so, really it just comes down to adding enough of, the bedding combined with the manure, and the urine of your animals. And then it makes this really nice, deep bedding that then helps keep your animals warm. Honestly, in some ways, I think it helps keep them, like if you have chickens or pigs, it kind of helps keep them interested. The chickens like to peck and scratch and dig around, your hogs. If you will take and spread a little bit of your feed out into that bedding, they want to root around, and that helps stir that bedding up a little bit. And then that, they like to bury themselves down into that heat a little bit more. So that's the gist of it, I guess.
That's really cool. So what is the process? So okay, so we're heading into winter. I'm assuming, do you clean out your coop like twice a year? Do you clean it out like spring and fall?
We clean out our coop in the summer. We clean it out quite a bit because it's warm enough, that you don't really need the deep. In the summer, I try and keep things at a little bit more of a maintenance level. And then it comes about, it's already feels like fall here, but really by October, I want to make sure that we're starting to add layers in. So you all clean out everything, kind of let it all dry up, and then I start with a layer of wood chips. Now we have a sawmill, and so I have really fine sawdust that we use. But if you have like even like a planer or something like that through a shop that you can get a little bit of wood I like the wood chips just or the even the dust because it really starts to soak in the
Mhm.
wet part of things, and that's on my base. But having goats or chickens or baby goat, if I don't put something on top of it, they start to nibble at the sawdust, which I don't want to have happen. So that's where your wood chips are kind of nice too, to not have quite as fine. However, again, it is expensive, so I try and use what I have at the time. So start with a kind of a wood chip layer on the bottom, and then whether it's straw or hay, I put in a layer of that. And then your animals are going to come in and they go to the bathroom. Now there's a point of like with the goats, they have like cute little landmines everywhere. And so you can start with, gosh, I'm going to take, and they don't like the stringy parts of the hay. They're so wasteful. And so once I get my initial part done, I will then take the hay that they have left behind that is no longer good enough for a goat. And I take that and I put that into my, as I'm starting the process, put that into the areas. I don't maintain my level of efficiency very long. You know, it ends up being like, I'm gonna throw that out there. And so we keep adding layers. So the goats go to the bathroom, and then we continue to add a layer. The idea is that they're laying on dry bedding, clean bedding. Um, it should never stink. That's a key red flag. You know, that ammonia smell, you don't want that. And Kodiak can be a little tricky because it can get really wet.
Mm.
I'm assuming that maybe on the mainland, because it's can be so cold and everything freezes, um, y'all don't maybe have the wet like we do in the same way.
Uh, Not in the winter. We don't usually because we are pretty cold and the humidity definitely goes down in the winter.
So that's, you know, those are those, although once you, that's where you want to start your bedding at a good enough time so you can get a nice little layer there at the bottom. And then you continue to add to it. And what is so cool is again, between that carbon and that nitrogen, those micro, it starts to just work and you just get heat that comes off. And it's like a little mini compost pile in your barn, you know, so the breakdown has already started to happen. When I start to pull out that bedding in spring, I can see my base layer and it's already almost soil down there. You know,
Very nice.
and so then you're coming up and you can see the progression of your layers. And for me, I love to go in and just lay in the barn with the animals, and you should be able to do that at any time, you know, with
Mm.
that bedding. You know, it should be at a good enough place where even though I know there's manure underneath me, it's not seeping up. Um,
And how often are you doing this? I'm sure it depends on how many animals are in the area, but how
does
do you know when it's time to add another layer?
if you start to get the stink, if or for me, like look at your animals too. If they start to if they look soiled, they shouldn't look soiled.
Mm.
You know, they
Yeah.
shouldn't have wet big unless like your cows can be a little bit different because they just want to they for some reason decide they want to lay in their own manure. But like if you have a goat or you know something, they don't want to be wet. They don't want to be dirty. You know, they
That
want
makes
to be clean. And so you're gonna especially in your animal for something like a pig, they need to be able to burrow and get down in there and be dry. Like I always say, like if a person is cold, your pig's cold. That they're a little bit different, you know, just in how they are. I had one instance and it was in the middle of the summer and it had just poured and I had a pig come in and it was shivering. You should not
Hmm.
have a pig that is shivering. You know, I was like, ah, I didn't expect this to happen in July, you know, and so I am heaping in the extra bedding. You know, you should always have a nice layer where they are comfortable. I'll have even goats that just like and my area is very open too. You know, there's one walled side, so a lot of good airflow, but they are very comfortable in how they are appearing to be.
Okay. So when you're redoing the layers, are you putting down another layer of sawdust and then another layer of straw, or is it just straw from there on out?
I pretty much just do straw. I think it can come down to what you have available
Mm.
and are, you know, most readily for yourself. Um, I like, you know, hay stems or straw at that point, just because I'm taking my animals back and forth a lot of the time to be milked, and I don't want the sawdust all over my milking
Oh,
parlor, you know, or all over me. So that, you know, that part. Now with my chickens, you know, I'm more likely to put down wood chips than I am hay because it just feels like it goes further for that.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
where I'm at, like we don't heat anything in our chicken coops at all. There's no heater added, you know, whatsoever. That deep bedding does everything you need it to do.
That makes sense. And so now you've been adding these layers, and now it's, this thick because winter's over, and then you're just going in and shoveling all that out and putting it on a compost pile to finish.
Yeah. there are drawbacks to deep bedding. I mean, there are definitely, that's something, that I was thinking this week, my boys are now 15 and 13 and 9. And like it just has worked out so nicely because I'm like, oh, I don't want to scoop out this shed anymore. Thankfully, I have these boys that are, wanting to make some muscles. So it is a back-breaking job. So one
Yeah.
of the things, if you are going to go in the deep bedding route, if you are making a coop, if you are making a barn, anything, make it so that you can get in with some mechanized machine. So even if
Oh,
that's a little like one of those little Caterpillar deals or like a mini Kubota tractor, if you are in a place like go to your rental center, what do they have? What do they have at your rental center that you could rent for one day? You will save yourself being down in the back, all the extra core muscles, all the extra things like that. So if you are able to not have to, do the back breaking work. Unfortunately, every single shed that I have requires a pitchfork and a shovel. There's not one. And even when we built this new shed, I was like, hey, can we have, I don't know how we missed the memo of like, I asked, can we get into this with a tractor? No, somebody was mad at me that day. And they're like, nope, we're going to make Kelli still take her little pitchforks and fork by fork move it. So you move all that manure, and mine does go down to a compost pile. And there's the progression. Now you've already done a lot of the work there, but I make sure and stir that all up, and the steam that comes off of those piles is just incredible. This has been my first full year. I did my entire garden with all composted, excuse me, soil. So there was no soil at all. Like there was nothing from the ground. It is 100% like manure and carbon that we
wow, that's
created
awesome.
soil. So everything that we're growing this year came from our made soil. Kodiak doesn't really have soil, and so that was, it's been a big, deal for us to continue to make soil because we're just a big rock. Everything's rock. Um,
And
anyway,
that
so yeah, you start stirring that. Now you can get really technical, if you want your compost to reach the certain degree to make sure and kill all the seeds to be able to, and ours did. That's what's been a really neat part is I've had such little weed issues because it was such pure good soil at that point. But it's a back breaking, you know, job to do.
it sounds like it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and I appreciate how you simplified it because you're right. When you read stuff about deep bedding or whatever, it's, an entire chapter of a book and it's all these details and you're like, but I just want to make this carbonaceous diaper as Joel Salatin calls it.
Right.
So,
Right.
um, I like that you simplified it. And because they're naturally pooping the whole time, you're naturally adding new layers. So it just makes sense that it would kind of just build on itself until it's ready in the spring to be cleaned out, and then you're gonna spend the next year making your compost, which is good stuff.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is worth it. And I mean, really, you just have to use the sniffs test. I'm not looking to sell my soil either. So how do I know that it's ready? Well, I get a big old handful of it and I bring up what would have stunk like manure.
Mhm.
And I can smell that in, and it's like worms are falling out of it and it smells fantastic. That's what you're wanting to get to. And further, like we do not get cold like the mainland gets cold very often, but we do every once in a while. And, like I'll go, but it kind of stresses you out too. 'Cause I've had days where I'm like, this is like negative temps here. Again, not normal for Kodiak. And I'm going down there thinking like, oh my goodness, these goats, they have 3 open sides to their shed. Like we only have one full wall and then half wall on the side. And I'll go in there and I'll put my hand, and the heat coming off of bed is incredible. I'm like, oh, we're we're set.
We're
Um,
set.
but you again have to do a little bit of the, I'm gonna take care of this spring, just let it be, because I just continue to see all the work that is literally piling up. So, and you
That's
have
really
to clean
great.
it out, like clean it out. You got to clean it out in the spring. Don't think you're gonna have your year before and then you're gonna keep like you're gonna ruin your ground. If we have wooden floors to our barns, you're gonna ruin those if you don't get that cleaned out. And then
Yeah.
take a season off, clean it up. I keep mine, I don't let mine get to deep bedding in the summer. I don't need to. So I try and keep things on the up and up and then deep bedding it again once fall hits.
I love it. That's awesome. You
Yeah.
know, that's got to be, as I'm thinking my way through this, that's got to be cheaper than cleaning it out and renewing it every time too. So the advantages are it creates heat, you're making a really great compost, and you're saving money. Like it's like the perfect way to go about things for sure. What animals will deep bedding work for and what animals will deep bedding not work for?
So about all of my animals do deep bedding. The one animal that, they definitely do deep bedding, but it's really important to, at least that I have found. And I'm one person, like I'm sure there are somebody anywhere. The one thing I've learned, the more times that I talk about things that I do, the more people that are like, that's not right. I'm like, super. That's not right then. I'm wrong. I'm doing it wrong. Somehow I'm keeping them alive. Okay. But my pigs are one that I always, especially as it gets cold, like I want to have that bottom layer, but I definitely add a bunch of straw because they want to fully bury themselves into it. Like I'll come to the barn in the morning and I will not see any pigs because they are completely under in it. So those are the ones that, yep, they have the bedding, but you need a nice good layer so that they can like burrow under. So they get more carbon than I would normally give. And then I want to encourage them to like go outside because pig manure is just the worst manure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so I don't do as much, with the pigs probably. Goats, a big one, especially with milking animals. I just feel like that's a great way to keep udders clean too, and these animals warm and producing, because I want them to produce milk in the winter too. And
Yeah.
so having my goats, my sheep, my cows will do it to a certain point. I have an area where I keep it, but I still go in there. I don't want them laying in their manure necessarily. So with the cows, I'm a little bit more thoughtful in that I know that they're going to get the liquid in there, but I'm going to clean out their big manure piles because I don't want them laying in that, my dairy cows.
Right. Yeah.
But then I keep that, I put it into a bin, and that goes still down to my compost pile. And then the chickens do deep bedding, chickens, slash ducks, and then what else? That's about it. Oh, the rabbits do to a certain point, but the rabbits, I'll be honest, I moved the rabbits into kind of a little bit more of an indoor area just because their water freezing can be
Oh,
annoying. So
yeah.
I
Yeah.
moved them in a little bit more.
That makes sense.
The horses definitely do not get deep bedding. They don't need any of that. So they get cleaned out all the time. And the donkeys too. We clean out their space.
This has been really informative and it may, like I said, you simplified it so I feel like I can do it. So, um, yeah,
It's
that's
really
really good.
simple. It's not, it does, most of these things are not rocket science. I like somebody like Joel Salatin, I so appreciate him. However, there are times that he will have multiple sentences in a row that I don't understand. Like he
Mhm.
has used big words and he is so well educated in these areas. I'm like, I know you said something very amazing and important, and I don't know what you said at all. Um, if you like when I went to his farm, that man's got deep bedding. And it's
Yeah,
like when I went there, I was like, this is just a straight up farm. There is nothing amazing and striking about this. Like you're running a farm with deep bedding. He has the big words, but my deep bedding and his deep bedding look pretty similar.
that's really cool. That's neat. I think somehow we've as a society, even though we kind of got away from these traditional skills, kind of, or the old skills, I still think somehow in finding them again, I think we've overcomplicated so many things. So I was just watching a cheese class the other day that Beth Doherty was doing, and her cheese press is literally two buckets. One bucket with the cheese in it, and the other bucket with and it has holes. So um, it's two. I think they're 1 gallon buckets. So the bottom bucket has holes drilled all the way around it. So when and then the top bucket is just a bucket filled with water. That's it. And that's what's pressing down. And the I just learned the point of pressing cheese isn't to get the water out. I thought it was, but it's for the formation. And I can't remember what else she said, but just this. I mean, I had been looking at a cheese press and they're like $150. And here's Beth taking two buckets and drilling a bunch of holes in one, and she's got this cheese press. Like, it takes up less space. It's
Yeah.
super cheap. It's going to last forever. And granted, there's the whole plastic thing if you're not wanting to use plastic, but she's putting her cheese in cheesecloth anyway. So, I mean, it's the simplified things that I think, because homesteading isn't easy, and
Right.
or whatever you want to call this lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, self-sufficient living or whatever, it isn't easy. um I made a decision this week to totally redo my garden next year. Every year I've said, every year in August, I'm always like, "I'm not doing this again," because August is my month that I just I have a hard time enjoying August because it's too much and I can't physically do it all without dropping some balls. And I know I'm going to do that, and I don't like, that's not a good feeling. So but I was looking over my garden and thinking about, what do I use? What are we, all the things. And I thought, what if this year my broccoli didn't head up. So this year I have to buy broccoli. So it's not that expensive to buy. I get locally grown broccoli. I can go to Bush's Bunches. I know some just individual people who are out growing broccoli who have extra. It doesn't cost all that much. And you know what? I have a whole lot less stress. So what if I were to grow more potatoes, which are easy to grow? Or what if, I don't know. But just trying to figure out ways to simplify this life a little bit, because I want to enjoy it too. So deep bedding sounds a lot more simple than mucking out stalls at 30 below. And if it's keeping the animals warm too, then it's a total win-win.
Yes,
Yeah,
it is.
I like
You
it.
want to have a thing too where one of the things I thought about was just that you like in the winter it's hard to find things. If you have young kids, it's hard to find things for your kids always to do. But you can absolutely send them out there with those animals, let them sit down in that bedding, and they're gonna stay warm too.
Yeah.
It's a win-win to get out there. It is, you're right. It's simple. It's how things have always been done. And I'm certain that back in the day when those farmers were doing it, they didn't have all the technical terms. They just said this was what works. You
Yep.
know, that's what they
What we
were
have,
doing.
it's what we're going to use. This is what works.
Yep. And
The other piece, the other little piece that I have gleaned from this talk is, it was part with your Maggie story and then part with the bedding too. Um, One of the things that I think has made Gene such a successful farmer is he lives in the orchard in the summer and kind of in the winter too, but not near to the degree. But um, I could ask him on any tree what's something unique about this tree, and he would tell me. We have
Mhm.
1,500 honeyberries, and he knows every variety in every row, and they're mixed and matched. It's not like there's these, because you have to for pollination, but he knows every single one. And when you said, everything was fine that night, you get up the next morning and you're just noticing a little thing wrong with your cow. I doubt that it was like massively, it doesn't sound like she was stumbling or, down and couldn't get up or anything. It was pretty small. And by putting down the deep bedding and still spending time in the barn, your barn's not stinky, it's not gross, you're wanting to spend time in there, you're seeing things before they become a giant problem.
Yeah.
And there's even the spiritual connotation with that too. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to notice before we're
Mhm.
supposed to notice the little things, and uproot the sin if it's a sin issue, or Or even if there's a little bit of a misunderstanding with another person, you're supposed to not just let it fester, you're supposed to take care of it. And it's the same thing, with your garden. Gene will notice when the first pest arrives, he sees it. And so because he sees that first one, then then he's out there managing it right away. It's not like it's just falling apart and he goes out, a few days later and goes, shoot, that's too bad. So I think there's just this other big massive lesson in this is supposed to be our lifestyle, and we're supposed to live it. And by living it, you need to be in the middle of it when
Yeah.
it's growing and doing its thing. So yeah, deep bedding seems like a great way to achieve that, because your barn's not gross, it's not stinky, and you want to hang out there.
Yeah, exactly. You're
It's warm.
creating a good environment that you want to be in.
Yeah, I love it. Well,
Uh,
Kelly, thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you for
it's
sharing
fun.
what you've learned and what worked and what didn't. And so, yeah, and I'm sure if anyone has questions, they can just leave a comment, and we'll definitely make sure that we get those questions answered. If you would please follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or even on YouTube, wherever you are listening, that would be great. And you can always leave us a review. We'd appreciate that too.
Yeah.
As long as you like us. If you don't like us, don't leave a review.
Don't leave a review. Leave us alone.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. What's that? Thumper says, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything
Right.
at all.
Nothing at all. That's right.
Oh, that's good stuff. All right. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Yeah, absolutely.